You're listening to episode 64 of the D6 podcast.
Here's the encouragement I give you. The shortest distance between your child's heart, your grown child's heart, and Christ is you.
Parents need to own that they are the primary disciplers of their child.
Our goal in parenting is not for our kids ultimately to get a great education, as good as that is. Our goal is not for them to be great athletes. Our goal is not for them to go on great dates and find a great husband or a great wife. Our goal is not for them to have a great career with a great job, making great money. Our goal is for them to love a great God.
You're listening to the D6 podcast. Here's your hosts, Ron Hunter and Jeremy Lee.
This is the podcast that helps you build an excellent family ministry in your church. And Ron, I don't know that I'm very excited about any kind of family anything, because I'm going to be honest with you. This is going to air towards the end of the summer, and I'm going to tell you something right now. My boys, I love them, but my goodness, they have been all around my house. It has been a constant war. No, you cannot play video games all day. No, you cannot eat everything in the house all day. No, go do something constructive. No, I'm not your party clown. You can't ask me to entertain you all day. I've got obligations. I'm telling you, I need school to start, Ron. I need it to happen.
You and my wife and I are the same way. You know, it's when the rhythms and the routines of everyday life get broken. She's like, we love our kids, but we want normal routines. We're ready for them to be back in school. And, ours are at a different season of life, but we feel the same way. We love them, but we want normal.
I love my kids, and I love it when they leave to go to school very much. And talk about needs. I need something to do with them, and you guys are just this kind of, I am totally segueing into something that you guys are releasing, because I know the author of this, and if I would have had this book at the beginning of the summer, maybe it would not have stunk so bad. So John Forrest, if y'all don't know John Forrest, you should. He is very funny, and he also knows how to have fun, and he wrote a book called Help, Pause, My Games Stink. See, if you say that the other way, help my games stink, it's an indictment on your recreation ministry. We don't want to do that. It's help, pause, my games stink. And so...
and he offers in here 52 amazing games for youth ministry. And, when you first hear that, there's a real divide in youth ministry over, are we going to make this games-based or are we going to make this scriptural-based? And when you get a chance to dive into John's book and his philosophy, you're going to find a unique balance that he would say he does not do games for game's sake. He has intentional purpose with connecting to each other and to the audience. I mean, he is a youth minister connecting and creating community among each other as peers. I mean, he uses these very, very purposefully.
One of the best seminary classes I had was a class called Recreation Ministry by Dr. Paul Stutz. This man was a genius in the area of recreation, and he would talk about the benefits of playing in preparing a kid to hear the gospel, and how it lowers their nervousness and prepares them to hear. And in many ways, there are certain kids who won't hear anything you do unless they're playing while they're learning. And so there's so much. One of the things he taught me about recreation I want to share real quick, if that's okay, because it's such a nugget. It's held for... I'm going
to tell you no right there after that. Come on,
it's
go
such
for
a
it.
Nugget. But he said, because I used to do this quite often, I would go to a retreat and I would say there's a recreation time, and I would plan every second of that recreation time. You know what he said the definition of recreation is? Is when someone chooses their leisure. And he said, we many times plan, quote, recreation for kids. And it's by definition not recreation at all, because we choose the leisure for them. And it challenged me. In fact, there were a couple times when I would do retreats when I would say, hey, this is recreation time. And what that means is, here's 4 options of things you can do. One of them being laying down by the tree and just resting. you choose over this next period of time which one of the things you want to do.
That's right. So we want you. This is a brand new book that's just released. We want you to come check this out. So come to the website, take a look at it at d6family.com. John Force, just exactly what Jeremy was talking about. How do we create that leisure time, that recreational time? And when you need something to jump in there that's intentional, you'll have it. While you're on the website, do not forget about the special we introduced last week, Dr. Tim Kimmel's book, Connecting Church and Home. You're going to get a bundle of 10 of them, which would normally sell for $130 for half price, $65. That's buy 5, get 5 free. You will love that. And we just want to give opportunities to make your ministry more enjoyable by what happens at church and how you equip parents to take that home. And taking it home, Jim Burns, he has been teaching this philosophy of how do we help parents, how do we help church and home work together for decades. He is a recognized leader. I want to say on a personal level, when my wife was going through her cancer, if I was calling Jim for just an odd item, and he or his assistant and office manager, Cindy, answered the phone, the first thing they say, "How's your wife doing?" These are people that are not just about business. They are people of prayer. They're people of ministry, and they have the heart. Their hearts are in the right place. So I have a tremendous amount of respect, love, and appreciation for Jim, Cindy, their entire team that they have working together in the ministry. And he is going to talk through an interview you did, helping parents have faith-based conversations at home. This is the most important thing I believe ministers can help parents do, is to be intentional with conversations that are not sermons, but intentionally connecting to the hearts of their kids.
Yeah, this is some of his core content. You're going to love it. In fact, after the break, we're going to hear from Dr. Jim Burns.
Are you looking for the right conference to attend this year? The D6 Conference is a family ministry conference designed for your entire ministry team. Come hear from over 30 speakers and network with churches that share your passion for reaching families. Family ministry isn't just another program. It's one of the most important things your church can do to make a difference in your city. At the D6 Conference, you'll be inspired and equipped to take your family ministry to the next level. To learn more about the D6 Conference, just go to d6conference.com.
Well, I do say a lot when I interview people that it's my honor, but man, it really is my honor to interview this next gentleman. He started out as someone that I just looked up to, but now I consider him a friend and most of all a mentor in my life. Dr. Jim Burns is our guest today, and we're going to be talking about helping parents have faith-based conversations at home. Do you know anything about that,
I'm not
Jim?
sure I know anything about it, although if you ask my kids, they'd say, there were times when Dad was boring. We talk about it, but hey, by the way, you look great. I want to actually shave my head, so I want to become like you.
I'll show you. There's some tips and tricks to it.
Okay.
And, I can show you. But then, you know what the key is? Use your wife's razor, because
My wife would
I don't
kill
know.
me.
I can't believe you've already got me into random conversation and off script. But the key is a woman's razor is used to get over the knee, right? So if you're going to shave your head, use it with a woman's razor, because a man's is not built for that.
I've been married to Kathy for 42 years and 86 days, but who's counting, of course? She is. She would kill me.
To use your razor?
To use her razor.
Just go buy your own woman's razor.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be awkward at all.
Okay, well, I have 3 daughters, so we probably have many of those kind of, but I don't like the colors. They're pink and stuff, so.
I'm going to get back to your introduction. Dr. Jim Burns is the president of Homeward, executive director of the Homeward Center for Youth and Family at Azusa Pacific University. He's spoken to thousands of people, but listen to this. He has over 1.5 million resources in print in over 25 languages. I won't read his whole list of books, but go to Homeward, WORD.com. You can even go while you're listening to this, open up a tab and go, and you'll see all that's available there. I'm not going to ever interview you again without saying thank you for the investments you've made in me, for believing in me the way you have.
Too. We have a great relationship.
You're passionate about helping parents lead their kids spiritually. And I've heard you say a lot, the easiest way to begin doing that is to just simply talk about faith at home. So why are faith-based conversations so dang important in the process?
Well, also they can be awkward. They're not always easy. But, you and I both know that when parents have faith-based conversations at the home, the kids are more likely to stay in the church. So when we've got kids leaving after high school or even sometimes before high school, we're seeing more and more that when parents have those faith-based conversations, they're going to stay. And we know that mom is the most important influence. At least that's what studies say. Dads, we need to buck it up because we're number 2. But then it's grandparents. And then as we go on down the line, it's the church. So the church and the home need to work together, but it's home that really keeps kids in faith, excited about faith, and it's those everyday conversations.
Well, what about parents who have kids that don't want to talk about faith? Because and I would be in that category. I have one of my boys especially, you bring up the subject, and it's not that he doesn't want to, he's just kind of not interested, but then sometimes you have kids that just flat out reject the whole thing.
Right.
And I know that there are a lot of parents who make the attempt, get rejected, or it doesn't go well, and then they're like, I'm out.
Oh, exactly. I just came from a seminar where I was teaching your children healthy sexuality. I had the same question asked. But, with whatever it is, one of our daughters totally engaged all the time. One of our daughters never wanted to talk about it. And another one would kind of be polite and nod her head. I think you still have those, but you have them in spontaneous ways. You look for it. You're watching television, go, hey, what do you think about that? And all of a sudden, that's a faith-based conversation. You bring up a subject and they don't even know you're necessarily having a deep Bible study. For our kids, family devotions, that was like a bad word to them. So we just changed it. We're going to have family hour, and we used chocolate, we used licorice, and we kept it short. We call it KISS. Keep it short and simple. So as long as you keep it short and simple and you make it fun, who says that you have to have, non-fun when you're doing that? So, that makes it easier for parents. And so I just think we in the church have to help parents by giving them the kind of resources so they can do it, because parents don't know what to do. And then we encourage parents to, keep it short and simple. And use chocolate.
That's right. And it is so much more about encouragement as much as anything else. I think when people enter into this whole family ministry gig, they think we've got to teach them the greatest spiritual influence, and then we've got to equip them. But I just feel like the encouragement is the winner over it all, because there are so many parents who just lack the confidence.
Exactly. I have a memory. The memory is being at your church. You were a middle school pastor. I was speaking that week I was doing something on I think I preached and I did a seminar, but you did your thing on pass it on, or on rites of passages, and you spoke to the parents and you said, this is how you do it. And you gave them handles on how to have faith-based conversations. Well, I didn't see these parents going, I can't do that. You motivated them and encouraged them to do it, but then you not only just said, go do it. They wouldn't know what to do. You said, here's some ideas. You also gave some testimonies. Parents were encouraged. That's how you do it. You do exactly what you've been doing for years.
Yeah. Okay, so you've got 2 great books on this topic. The first one is Faith Conversation for Families, which helps families have normal, everyday family conversations. You also have a book that we got to write together,
That's
which
right.
I'm so excited, called Pass It On.
I'm just your eye candy. You wrote the book. I was your eye candy.
Yeah, no, what you were was my way of getting it published, because no one knows who I am, but thank you. No, it was experience of a lifetime getting to work with you on that. But that helps set up a spiritual experience where parents have a more formal spiritual conversation. So I wanted to balance those two, because you have a great resource on kind of the informal, everyday conversations. But what we did with Pass It On was a more organized conversation. Those are 2 different types, right? Let's kind of unpack those for people.
Well, first of all, faith conversations happen driving in a car, getting up in the morning, around a dinner table, just spontaneous. And so what I did in that particular book was I had 152 faith conversations. It could be on sex or it could be on prayer. Sometimes I used the newspaper to get things started. Sometimes I used a current event type of deal, which would be newspaper or other things. And other times, I use just pure scripture as a Bible study. But, what I'm saying to parents is, no, just look for ways at the certain age of kids and have those conversations. Sometimes it's formal, even in those, where you just say, hey, every Sunday night, we did this. Every Sunday night, we're going to eat fun food and we're going to have a very short conversation about faith. Sometimes that worked, sometimes it didn't work. Most of the time, I think it worked actually, because they knew it was going to be short. They knew they were going to have fun food, and they got engaged because we used a lot of times other people's resources that were good. I used children's ministry stuff. I used youth ministry stuff. Now, Pass It On the other hand, which I'm a fanatic about, and you helped me become this fanatic. Although I wrote on this subject even in grad school,
way before I ever did it. Yeah.
But the fact is that this is a one-time experience where you give a year. Where it's significant, you bring symbols and celebrations and other people sometimes into it, and you give them an experiential education that they won't forget. If kids experience just retention, they experience something. An invitation to generosity in kindergarten, receiving a Bible, but people, sharing Bible scriptures and then encouraging them to read a sentence a day, whatever it is. Those kinds of experiences, they're not going to forget. They're not going to forget a manhood, womanhood ceremony ever. They're not going to forget creating a driving contract before they got their driver's license. They're not going to forget a weekend on purity. So the point being is that this is a one-time-a-year experience. It could start at any age. But to me, the benefit and the beauty that I actually saw you talk to your well, actually it was middle school through high school that you talked to those parents about, that's life-changing stuff. And parents can do it because it's kind of all there for them. All they have to do is adapt it and tweak it to their kid. So, that's easy, good stuff. I think every parent in America should be doing that kind of stuff.
And you know what? I brag on other people's books all the time. So let's just take a second. I think our book is pretty darn good.
I absolutely do.
One of the reasons why I like it is because it's from kindergarten all the way up to 12th grade. And that's not a lot of resources take that kind of age range, right?
No, exactly. In the next few weeks, unfortunately, you were not able to be there, but I was interviewed at Focus on the Family. Mm-hmm. That was one of the main things that they talked about. They said, wow, we don't really see resources that, kind of start in kindergarten and go through 12th grade. Now, obviously, there are people who have 10th graders that are going to start in 10th grade. They can tweak it back a little bit with some of them, too. Well, but that's the beauty of it.
Well, we meant for it to be like one of those books that you just keep on your shelf and keep referring to through the years.
Yeah.
Almost like the baby book that they look at.
Yeah, exactly. So, I had a lady, Jeremy, I was doing a seminar just recently. It was on sex and sexuality, but she said to me, we have a fourth grader. Now, this is a woman who is at the D6 conference who's here to learn, about how to be a leader, but she also was going to talk about her own kid and said, we've been doing this, and we have a fourth grader, but we've gone through kindergarten through fourth grade. And I smiled. I said, that's neat. So I said, so you did an invitation to generosity? Absolutely. We just did it backwards. She goes, is that okay? And I went, you get the star of the day for that, because they've done all of that in 1 year, and now they're going to do it on a yearly basis. But how cool that they said you can do. We hadn't given really our fourth grader a good Bible. We gave him a little white Bible that was kind of King James's. No offense to the king, or white, but that kid wasn't going to read that cover. Mm-hmm. So then we gave them a children's Bible. This is second grade, but now they're in fourth. A children's Bible that they could read, and we've been encouraging to read one passage a day, and we actually do it together around the family table. But our child brings the book. Well, okay, it was worth writing. On and on with that story right there.
Yeah, that's good. My first time to hear that one. I love that. Okay.
Well, it just happened about a half an hour ago, so that's what you get.
How do we help parents who want to have these faith conversation or like these pass it on experiences like we're referring to, but they're intimidated? We've kind of already talked about this, but I really just want to attack this intimidation factor. What do we do about that?
Well, speaking to leaders, I think you have to do two things. One is you have to give them a lot of encouragement, like you said, but you have to give them a resource that works. And not just with Pass It On or Faith Conversations for Families. Those are two great books. But, we just have to continually encourage them, look for ways to do that, because they're not thinking that way. But then secondly, I think it's when other parents have done it and they go, whoa, this was great for us. So I think you find parents who are kind of on your team. So I always say, as part of family ministry, get a parent advisory committee that let them be the spokespeople, because they're expecting it from the leaders. Mm-hmm. I mean, they were at my church when I was a youth pastor, they expected me to talk about this stuff. But when Kathleen, who's a mom of teenagers, said it's working at home, they're really listening to Kathleen. So she's talking about it on the soccer field. When she's watching, a soccer game, she's talking about it, in between church things, and all of a sudden that helps big time. So I think it's important to get some parents doing stuff like that, and then let them go. Let them talk about it.
Okay, so you also wrote Teenology, The Art of Raising Great Teenagers. So there's children's ministers who are equipping families to become teenagers. There's obviously youth ministers who are in the middle of that already. What is the secret behind raising a healthy teenager? Unleash it right now, Dr. Jim Burns.
It's not easy.
Is that the secret? Just to admit it's not
seriously,
easy?
I did my PhD on this. One of the things that I say is take the monkey off of your back for teens and place it on their back. Because here's the bottom line, Jeremy. Kids, you can raise kids to be obedient. You could do that by putting chains on them and lock them in a closet. That's obviously abuse. The bottom line is, how do you help them become responsible adults? And I'm going to add, who love God. Well, you do that by helping them move from dependence on you toward independence. What a lot of parents of teens are doing today is they're still helicoptering their parents. They're still controlling their kids, when in fact what they need to do is back off as parents and help their kids make many of the day-to-day decisions. Now that starts, early, and you begin to teach them how to become responsible adults. I don't know about you, but how I became responsible was sometimes by failing.
Yeah.
So we have to let our kids do that. We shouldn't be making our kids beds when they're teenagers. We shouldn't be, doing their homework. The reason we're doing that is because, we want them to succeed, but what's happening is we see a whole generation that's failing to launch. So at the same time, we've got to talk about those issues. So, in teenology, you're talking about creating a media-safe home. You are talking about purity-type issues. You're talking about how do you build character without crushing spirit. Now, for most of us, honestly, we're just trying to get through Thursday. So I think the point is, the bottom line is, what's the end and goal? The end is to help them become responsible adults, these teens. A lot of them aren't doing it, partly because parents are still smothering them. Parents have to lead, but they've got to take the monkey off their back, put it on their kids' back.
Oh, I love it. Let's talk about sex, baby.
Good, two bald-headed guys having a conversation about sex.
You've written the Purity Code, teaching your children healthy sexuality along with others. And I just want to add, you also have a book for younger children that we utilize a lot. A couple of books, actually, for different stages to help have these, because it's not a sex talk we talk about. It's a series of these conversations on and on and on.
Continual dialogue.
And so you've written this. So let's talk about it. As we're discipling our kids and we come to this area, how do we have good, healthy conversations around this subject, sex?
It's easier if we can do it earlier. So, there's a book, called God Made Your Body. It's 3 to 5, and it basically says God made your body, and God made some with big noses and some with small noses, and some who are black and some who are brown and some who are white, and and on and on. But what you're doing is you're getting kids comfortable with their body, but you're also getting them comfortable with God. God made your body. So what you're doing is you're introducing it at an earlier age, and then you begin, say the stage of 6 to 9, you're beginning to answer their questions. I mean, you answer it like a 6 to 9-year-old. You don't answer it like they were teenagers. But then you're going to have those conversations. Now, just a while ago, because I was teaching on this subject here at the D6 thing, I said, how many of you received good, positive, healthy sex education from your parents at home? Because we all know that the more positive, value-centered sex education kids receive from home, the better it is. 8 people. Well, the room was full, but only 8 people raised their hand. And if it was an older generation, say older parents, it would have been less.
No doubt.
So again, what we need to do is as leaders, is we need to give parents the confidence to have this conversation. Well, I write books on this. All of my kids said, "Dad, you were so awkward," because I didn't want to talk to my kids about those kinds of subjects. But it's more when you create dialogue, and that we have people who say, well, my kids never talked to me about it. Well, have you ever talked to the kids? And so a lot of times they hear from home some real mixed messages. Don't do it, or silence. And then and then we complain about the culture. Well, the culture is at least talking about it. I'm not saying they're doing a good job, but I would much rather introduce the area of healthy sexuality to my kids than have Justin Bieber do it, or Miley. I mean, God bless those 2 young people, but they don't have the same worldview I do. So why am I complaining about them and not doing it myself, I guess is what I'm saying. So today, the good news is we can use resources, ours or others, to help kids make those right and wise decisions. I think it's some of the most important decisions kids can make.
Okay. So parents avoid sometimes leading their kids spiritually because of their own mistakes, guilt about their past. Is what they're afraid to have that conversation. What would you say to parents, or what do you say to parents who are stalling over their previous sin or their life that they feel ashamed of, and they really don't want to have to admit to their kid? How do you handle that journey?
I would say
I know you didn't have to deal with this because you were perfect.
I was perfect. Yes, I was the perfect one. Both Kathy and I were raised in non-Christian homes. We have a testimony more. But, my line to every parent on this, and that's the most often asked question, by the way, at teaching your children healthy sexuality seminars. Homeward's the largest provider of parenting seminars in the U.S., who I work with. And we always get that question asked on sex, but we also do it with faith. Same question. What I say is, the reason I have so much passion on this subject is because I didn't do it right. And so I want you to be able to do it right. So we're going to have more of these kind of conversations. Now, I don't think you have to go into every war story of your personal life. But I think it's important to share with your kids. I wasn't perfect. I don't have the story that I want you to have. Kathy and I talk about being a transitional generation, that the Bible says you inherit the sins of a previous generation to the third and fourth generation. So I'm saying you can either recover or repeat. So we're trying to recover. But in doing that, that doesn't mean that we just, be quiet, or then our kids aren't going to have that same teaching. So what we've got to do is, if I said to my daughter Christy in a conversation when she was 17, I put my hands out and I said, your mom started in deficit land because of the family system that she came from. And she's the person I've seen grow the most. But she's recovering and breaking the chain of dysfunction so that you can start someplace in the middle and go farther than mom or dad ever did. Well, that's what we want to do as parents. We need to be motivated to say, we don't have to live this way. Now, what kids want, there's a scripture that says, the man or woman of integrity walks securely. Well, I'm convinced the man or woman of integrity who walks securely will have kids who. Well, integrity doesn't mean perfect. Integrity means authentic. So again, I think when parents are more authentic with their kids and open about their past, you don't have to tell every story, but open about their past, that'll motivate their kids to make better decisions, not want to imitate some of the poor decisions that their parents made. So parents, get over that. Okay, just get over it and start making it happen, and realize we're gonna, bump into each other. Life's messy, family's messy. God seems to be okay with that.
All right, you've got a lot of resources, but I want to make sure we highlight confident parenting. I just chose that one out of your broad library. Introduce confident parenting to the ministers that might be listening to this, and why this might be helpful in their ministry.
Well, first of all, confident parenting is a total oxymoron. It's like diet ice cream. I'm still looking for diet ice cream. And
that would be amazing.
The only diet ice cream that I've ever had that probably is worth being diet, I didn't like the taste. It tastes like cardboard. I was a confident parent, and then I had kids. But here's the deal. Most parents parent by circumstance and chance. Let's face it, they're just trying to get through Thursday. And then they go, whoa, we got to do this again on Friday. So confident parenting is a strategy for parenting. And I didn't write it for a number of years. I'd been in youth ministry, and then I'd written a book called Partnering with Parents in Youth Ministry. So I started moving toward the parent thing. But I went, my kids are still, they were still younger when I first got involved in this, and I went, I'm going to wait till they're at least releasing them to adulthood. So this is a very personal book. It's a parenting strategy book. I find a lot of parents aren't on the same page, and Kathy and I aren't. So maybe we're on the same page for 80%, but part of it is because we have a strategy for how to parent and help them become a responsible adult, which deals with discipline, a lot of the other types of issues that we've talked about. But how do we create an atmosphere in the home? And so I'm suggesting that parents kind of read that book together, that churches do a small group with it. We have a small group curriculum with it, so that parents can kind of get on the same page. We have beautiful things like Financial Peace University. You're very involved with that. I love that organization. I love what they do. Well, why aren't we doing that for every church? Should have, a parenting strategy. It doesn't have to be mine. But confident parenting is one that a lot of churches seem to be using right now. And, there's probably 100,000 people who are using it, which is small compared to our world, but big compared to what the Christian world does. I want to see it, go to 1 million people using it, not because it's mine, but because now they have a strategy that at least they can agree or disagree with. So I'm thrilled about confident parenting. I'm thrilled that it continues to, influence and impact, Christians, also non-Christians who say we like this, and yet it's unashamedly Christian.
Well, speaking of influence and impact, you have marked my life, my friend, and I just love and respect you so much.
Yeah, well,
and I thank you.
We got a mutual love thing going on here.
We
Jeremy.
do. It's a love fest.
And we have a new book coming out. We should tell the people. It's called Hairstyles for Ministers.
How to use a woman's razor to shave your head.
No, that'll never happen in my life.
Video.
Not going to happen. I'm sorry.
Jim, I'm telling you, it's the only way to go.
I know we started on that, but we are not ending on using that.
All right. If you want to follow Dr. Jim Burns online, the best place to probably go is homeward.com. That's where you'll find all his resources and a ton of free stuff there, too. There's a lot of great stuff there. Please go check it out and follow what he's doing. And thank you so much for being with us.
Great to be with you. You are loved and appreciated, my man. Good to see you.
ever feel as if you spend so much time doing the work of the ministry that you never actually minister to people? Wouldn't it be great if you had a little help with your ministry to-do list? What if you already had 2 training emails for your volunteers each month, along with a fully produced video that drove the point home? What if you were able to share nearly every main stage talk that has ever happened at the D6 conference with your ministry team? Imagine having a ministry coach pour into you personally each month. What if we gave you a resource that you could give to parents in your ministry to have tough conversations around life's difficult topics? This is the kind of stuff they can really use, and they'll be grateful to receive. When you become a member of the D6LN, we immediately make your life easier. We help you with your weekly event, teacher training, family ministry, parent helps, and your own personal ministry helps. The D6 Leader Network is going to give you content, coaching, and community throughout the entire year. The D6 Leader Network makes awesome easy. Just go to d6leader.net to give it a try today.
Thank you, Jeremy, for an incredible interview with Jim Burns. I love our theme this summer. You're talking about having our kids around more often. And, while we joke about it being an interruption of our routines, it still is an opportunity to connect. And last week, Dr. Tolbert talked about how to help parents connect with their kids through Bible study. This week, Jim Burns just shared helping parents have faith-based conversations at home. Next week, we're going to do it again in a different angle, a different lens with Brian and Angela Haynes, helping parents stay connected with their kids. I'm excited about this theme. This is opportunity. And what better opportunity can we have than when we come home and our kids are already there unexpectedly, maybe interruptedly, and we go, okay, let me turn off my frustration and turn on what God wants me to do here.
Okay, Ron, lesson learned. I won't be so annoyed with my children.
Hey, I'm preaching to me too. I am.
My bad. Okay, kids, I'm coming home to be nice to you now. Dr. Ron has helped me out. Anyway, I'm just kidding. Hey, listen, you're right. Intentionality. This is an opportunity for intentionality. Intentionality is not easy, but it is something that if we do it, it pays huge dividends. It's a great investment. So thank you guys for listening. I hope this has been as inspirational to you as it was for me to go home and really be intentional with your kids and have those faith-based conversations at home. Looking forward to next week. We will have, we'll see you next Tuesday with Dr. Brian Haynes and his wife, Angela. They're going to be talking about how to connect to the hearts of the kids that we have in our houses and our families, and we just going to continue rolling with it. So we'll see you then. Thank you for listening. Have a great week.
You've been listening to the D6 Podcast. You can learn more about D6 at d6family.com. And if you're a minister, we invite you to join the D6 Leader Network by going to d6leadernetwork.com.